Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean,
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
that's a pill with two screens and it's open and you gotta swallow it.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
Here, tell us about courage, Phil. Tell us about courage.
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing. Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hi.
And Caleb.
Yeah.
And we are here to talk all things of sicknesses, sneezes, coughs, and this is a new segment, really. We're past 30, we're old men, and now we have a lot of phlegm. Don't worry, we'll get to our next subject of tech next week. But this segment now is about phlegm and how terrible it is when you get over 30 years old and have to... No.
We're past 30 and now we have a lot of phlegm. I feel like that's a shirt. That's a shirt.
That's a shirt. Past 30, a lot of phlegm. That's a shirt we'll put
happen.
on. I think we should.
Yeah.
We can go to that T-Public that's on our website.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you want that shirt, you can have it. We'll have to figure out. Now we need to figure out like a picture or something to go with it, like something.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to illustrate. Now there's a lot of phlegm.
Now there's a lot of phlegm.
Not sure that's the move.
Anyway, so Landon, you doing okay over there, buddy? Yeah.
Oh, I'm fine. Just doing my best you impression.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. You know, to be honest, you probably have caught so much of that because you are the podcast engineer and try and make me sound at least somewhat not as terrible. Still terrible, but,
You know, listener, we were joking before we started recording that I ought to just take all the stuff of Wes's track that I cut out and put it on its own. Maybe one day that could be a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, first off, who would pay for that? And if you do, I'll even give you a T-shirt. I'll make it myself if that's what you want, because that's just amazing. Check it out. Episode. We can name the episode as Past 30 and Full of Phlegm. Got it. Oh, my goodness. Hey, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Why don't we go ahead and move on to something like technology related? Huh?
Okay, fine.
Because, that's what we talk about mostly. Well, at least I do. I don't know. I don't know about you, Landon. I'm just kidding. Hey, you know what, Landon? Why don't you go ahead and take it away? Let us know what you want to talk about.
Okay, I will talk about technology for the time being.
That's good.
I mean, that could change in a few minutes, but we'll see. For right now, though, let's do some Google news because I am technically the Google guy, despite all of the evidence to support the contrary.
I was going to say, what Google stuff do you use that's a primary thing for you right now, other than YouTube?
I use all of Google's software. I use Chrome. Okay. I use Gmail. I use, even I have the Google keyboard on my iPhone. I use Google stuff all the time.
All right, fair enough.
It's just
on Apple devices.
It's just I don't use their hardware. I have a ChromeCast with their Chromecast with Google TV. I have one. It is plugged into my TV, but I don't use it very often because it's plugged into a Roku TV that does almost the same thing. Although I did use it the other day with my Oculus headset. Whenever my kids play, or if ever I'm there or playing and my kids are watching, they want me to cast whatever I'm playing onto the TV, so I use it for that. So it does come in handy. But that's
interesting.
I mean, that's the only Google hardware that I use on a regular. Well, I don't even use on a regular basis, but that I have and sometimes use.
Okay, so if you have the Oculus, you can. I don't know this, so you can actually cast it to your Chromecast.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
You can cast it to the Oculus app on your phone, so like you could do it that way where people are watching on a phone, but that's not as fun. So you put it on the TV and people can see.
Oh. For about a year ago, my brother gave me his old Oculus. I still haven't hooked it up yet. I've been thinking about doing that for the kids and whatnot. And so then you said that, and I was like, oh, that would actually be fun if you're able to put whatever up on the TV. So, yeah.
Well, that wasn't a Quest, was it? I remember you mentioning that. Isn't it one of the Rift headsets?
I thought it was something else too.
I thought that was one of the Rift headsets.
Maybe it was
In which case, people will be able to, because you plug it into your computer, and anybody who wants to watch what you're doing can just look at your computer screen because it's usually mirrored.
Yeah, maybe it was a Rift. Any kind of VR device, I guess. One of them.
Anyways, that kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about. Google did release a new Chromecast with Google TV. This one is now called, this one is called the Chromecast with Google TV HD. So the original Chromecast with Google TV does 4K video and is $50. This one does HD video, so 1080p only, and is only $30. And it is now available to purchase from most places that you would buy a Chromecast. But it's not just your typical Chromecast, like it does all the casting features, but it also has the little remote that you can get with it and the Google TV interface, which is pretty nice. So if you were thinking about something like that, if you don't already have a Roku or an Apple TV or something like that, for $30, this is a pretty decent deal. It does still support HDR10 and HDR10 Plus, but it does not have Dolby Vision because it is only 1080p. But if it's like going into a smaller TV or something for your kids, or I don't know, $30, it's a pretty decent option in my opinion.
I was so confused. You're like, it's called the Chromecast with Google TV HD, and I'm like, was the last one in 720p? What the heck?
No.
It's a really crappy upgrade for 2022, but no, it's a downgrade.
It's a cheaper version. I mean, if you were to look at the two, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference because they look almost identical.
Right.
But this one has a little bit lesser hardware on the inside because it only gives a 1080p stream instead of up to 4K like the other one does. But it is cheaper. At $30, that's even cheaper than the original Chromecast that came out. It was $35 when that came out.
Whoa.
So,
wow.
This one does all the same things plus more because it's basically a streaming box in a little HDMI stick type thing.
I actually, similar to you, my Chromecast that I've had for a while, mine was one of the first, I think, 4K ones. This doesn't have the TV, but I think it was a while ago.
Right.
I went to clean up the back part of my TV. I was rearranging stuff and remembered. I looked up and was unplugging stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah.
Totally forgot.
I had a Chromecast back here. What the heck?
Well, everything I have the Xbox that pretty much does everything for me. So I'm like, oh well, that's right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, that's kind of how I am. I was like, oh, yeah, I do have that. I should maybe use that one of these days. And I don't. But it is nice if you have something that can cast to your TV that doesn't already just cast with whatever TV. Because, I mean, my phone I can AirPlay to my Roku TV because it has that capability on the TV now. So even that, I don't even do much with my Chromecast with my phone because I don't need to. So, But anyways, that is now available to purchase from Google, from Amazon, from wherever for $30. And it'll probably go on sale pretty soon because Chromecasts usually go on sale. Or you could get them for free with other things. Like, I know over the years on Black Friday and things like that, you've been able to get these type of devices for free with the purchase of something else, basically.
Yeah.
So just keep an eye out for that if you're in the market. All right, now on to some general tech news that I want to talk about. Something that we were all interested in when it was, rumored and whatnot and kind of shown off at CES. LG was in the process of making a new phone to kind of compete with Samsung's Fold. I say kind of because it is a phone that gets larger, but it doesn't fold. It was a rollable phone, and they actually called it the LG Rollable. Now, you may be wondering, listener, why is he talking about LG phones? They've stopped making phones like a year ago. Yes, you are correct. They did stop making phones about a year ago. This phone was in process of being made and almost going to be released when they did that. But somebody there's a YouTuber in Korea, I think is where it was, that got his hands on one of these devices, like in a box, like a marketing or a purchasable box, like, and everything, like, had all the crap in it. It's pretty cool. I will post a link to the YouTube video if you want to watch, but
he's genuinely pretty awesome.
It is really cool. Like, the phone full on works the way you would think that, like, you can turn it on. It's got Android on it. It's got all the apps. You can do all the things with it. It works. It's really cool. And the specs on it, I mean, the specs don't really matter because, again, they didn't release this phone, but it was going to compete with the market of phones, like high-end phones at the time. It had Snapdragon 888 processor, had 12 gigs of RAM, a 6.8-inch display that rolled out to a 7.4-inch display. It had a 64-megapixel camera. It had a 4,500 milliamp hour battery. It was like a decent phone.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know what the price would have been. Probably would have been upwards of that $1,500 to $2,000 range, like the Fold. But obviously we don't know, and it doesn't really matter because it's not available to purchase. But watching this video, I really wish that it would have come to market because it is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Like, you had it on, and all you had to do is you would swipe with 3 fingers, and it would automatically, on its own, expand out to the bigger display. Or if you swipe back with 3 fingers again, it automatically closes. Like, you don't have to pull it. Like, I initially thought, okay, this is probably you got to have to, like, pull it out and push it in or something like that. No, it just automatically goes on its own, which was really fun to watch. And it automatically switches the interface to work with whichever you're using at the time. It worked pretty seamlessly, too. I was very impressed.
It genuinely looks a bit like an optical illusion when it's doing it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So it's like, foldable phones are cool, but I've seen flip phones before, like never seen anything like this before. Yeah. It was so wild to look at. And I was just like, and you know what? Guess what it doesn't have? A crease.
Nope.
No crease on that screen.
No crease. This is definitely the closest to the ideal phone for Caleb. He wants that phone that rolls into the size of a chapstick tube.
Yep.
Basically. And then
you just pull it out like a little scroll and there's your phone. It's so perfect. And oh my gosh, can you imagine how well that would fit in a pocket with your keys or whatever, Yeah. Phones would just disappear from our concerns in terms of storage.
Well, it also might disappear being that small.
That's true. It would be a problem. But I'm willing to accept that.
You'd have to use a different device like a tablet or a computer or another phone to locate it because
this is true. But still, LG were the only ones even playing in that ballpark. And then they stopped making phones. And I was sad then. I'm even more sad now that I've actually seen this thing working. I'm like, come on. Yeah. We were so close to having like the coolest phone.
Yeah. I'm very curious. I want to know, like, if you were to somehow get one of these, if you could, like, throw a SIM card in it and it would work, or,
It might.
I don't know why it wouldn't.
Yeah.
The only thing that might happen is if, like, obviously it probably didn't get, like, FTC, approval and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
probably not.
I mean, if it's not being sold, they don't need that. So
exactly. Nah, it should be fine. You wouldn't get updates, obviously. But it might be the only real downside there. I don't know.
Yeah. It would be so cool to play with one of these. But obviously that's most likely not going to happen because
Nope.
I mean, it's been LG hasn't been in the phone market for about a year or so, and we're just now seeing one of these. So obviously, it's not. It's not going to happen. It's too bad. But, anyways, I had to bring it up because it was really cool. Like I said, I will put a link to the YouTube video in the show notes if you want to watch and drool over this cool phone like we did.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's neat. All right. Now, speaking of things that expand and collapse and whatnot,
The stock market?
I mean that is true, but no, not we're not we've mentioned multiple times how we are not the podcast to trust when it comes to investing and stocks and all that fun stuff.
This is not an investment podcast.
We're not going
all.
to switch at this time because it's still not that podcast. I mean, if we're going to switch to anything, it's going to be phlegm. We've already talked about that.
Yep.
But that is also not the time for that at this moment. So, the thing I did want to talk about that expands and collapses and is, fun is Caleb's favorite named thing on a phone, the dynamic island on the iPhone.
Pill.
The pill.
It's great, that pill.
Like Caleb said, only hours after the API was released, there were apps that would take advantage of this on the iPhone. But it was only hours after it was announced that people on Android were trying to make this work on other devices.
Yep.
And there is now an app that you can actually, I think it is currently a beta app. So you might be able to find it somewhere, but it is going to be on Android relatively soon, if I'm reading this correctly. But the developer is called Jawamo or something like that. Jawomo, something. You might know them because, you may not know the name, but you know the app that saved everyone that had a Samsung device by making it so they could remap the Bixby button to do other things. They're the ones behind that app. And they're the ones that are bringing what is called the dynamicSpot to Android. Now, what this does is it takes phones that have a hole punch camera and basically turns it into the dynamic island on the iPhone. And it obviously is going to work the best if the hole punch is centered on the screen. So some of your Samsung phones, your Pixel 6 phones are like that. Your Pixel 6a phones, any phone that has the hole punch in the center, not on the side, is going to work best for this. I don't know. I haven't seen pictures of this with it on the side, but it might work, but it won't look as good. But this basically does all the same things that the pill on the iPhone does, but on Android. And it looks, from the pictures that I have seen, it does look pretty good. And it expands out the same way that it did on the iPhone. It's got multiple apps running at a time on the either side of the hole punch. It looks pretty good. So if you are, as I am, and I assume Caleb is, I don't know about Wes, kind of jealous that you don't have this on your phone because you don't have an iPhone 14 Pro or 14 Pro Max. Here's an option for you if you are on Android. Me and Caleb are just kind of screwed because Apple is not going to put this out on other phones because that's not what they do. And they're probably not going to allow an app developer to make a copycat and put on the App Store because that's not what they do. So
definitely not going to happen.
So, Wes, you could potentially take advantage of this and show it off to us and make us mad at you for another reason. Because we always need more reasons to be mad at Wes.
Bring it on. Let's do this.
But yes, that is going to be available. Like I said, it is in beta right now. So there are apps that are in beta form on the App Store or on the Android Play Store. So it might be on there. I'm not entirely sure. If it's not, you could probably find it elsewhere. But just be careful if you download it third party because just make sure the place that you're getting it from is a reputable source. Like ABK Mirror, usually pretty good. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that the dynamicSpot from Jawamo, the Savers of Bixby. And that is all of my general tech news. But being the Apple guy that I am, I had to have, well, this isn't Apple news, but I did get my AirPods Pro 2 in yesterday. So I have some thoughts on those so far in the minimal time that I've spent using them. I mean, I have spent a decent amount of time playing with them, using them, setting them up, doing different things. Some things that I've noticed. So, little swipe for the volume controls do actually work pretty well. You unfortunately cannot turn that off, at least not anywhere that I've found. But inside of the accessibility settings of your AirPods, there is a place to change what they're calling the preferred wait time between swipes. So you can make it longer. It's default to one setting, and then you can make it longer or longest or something like, I don't know what the terminology they have in there is. But so it basically makes it so you can't swipe it a lot of time, like as quickly, I guess. I don't know. I haven't had any accidental swipes in my uses so far, which is nice. That's one thing I was worried about. If I go to press the button on it, would it accidentally change the volume? But I haven't had that happen yet. So I'm okay that there's not a way to turn it off if that doesn't happen. So I did find it interesting. So I have it set up to where I tried to set it up to where noise canceling was just automatically on. I'd put the AirPods in, noise canceling was on. You can have it so when you put them in, the transparency mode is on, or both of them are off, or whatever. But by default, if you only have one earbud in, then noise canceling was off, and it would be transparency mode. You have to go into accessibility settings if you want to have one earbud in at a time and have noise canceling on, which I thought was interesting. That's going to be the use case that I'm using it most of the time. In my work, I usually only use one earbud at a time, but I also want noise canceling on at the same time. So, I mean, it is capable of doing that. It's just you have to go into settings and change that to have it do that by default. You could turn it on manually after you put it in, but the default was to just go to transparency mode, which was interesting, but it's fine. Thoughts on how they actually sound. Sound is, I mean, to be expected. It's good. The noise canceling is ridiculous, in my opinion, like in a good way. So there were multiple times where I was using this and I would just have it on, then I'd switch to noise canceling and like, man, it was pretty good. Like there was a time I had a fan on in a room and you could hear the fan. It's not a quiet fan by any means. And I turned noise canceling on and it was just gone. Like that noise of the fan just out. It was very nice. Transparency mode. This is the first time I've experienced this feature on an Apple product because my wife has the first gen AirPods. They obviously don't have any of these features because, you know, they're just regular AirPods. They don't need these features. But the first time I've used transparency mode on AirPods Pro, and I will say I'm very impressed. Now, I haven't tried it on the first gen AirPods Pro, and I've always heard good things about those. I've always been told that transparency mode on AirPods is pretty much the best that you can get on any earbuds, even more expensive Bose or, you know, different products like that. But, I mean, I turned this one on, and it's almost as if I don't have them in my ears. Like, that's how good it is. I can kind of tell when I speak, I can kind of hear a little bit of a difference, but only ever so slightly. But everything else, like I'm walking around, and the only way I know that I have these in my ears is because I can feel them in my ears. Other than that, Like it sounds normal. And like there's in my my Samsung earbuds that I have, and I've got the Wise over-ear noise canceling headphones. In those, both of those with transparency mode on, you can hear like a slight kind of echoey type sound. Like you can tell that it's using microphones to send noise through. That's the best way I can describe it. You can kind of tell that they're doing something to feed that sound through into what you're listening to. These AirPods, you can't hear that. It doesn't make that sound. Like you can't really tell unless you're really, really paying attention. Like like I said, when I talk, I can hear it. And if other things are going on, if you really, really pay really close attention, you can kind of hear something, but it's very subtle. Like so subtle that if you just switch it on, you're just having a conversation with someone, you probably won't even know that it's there. It's just working, and it's really nice. I'm very impressed. Spatial audio is trippy. That's one thing I was looking for in any earbuds that I bought. I mean, this isn't just an Apple exclusive thing. This is like, you can get these on Beats, you can get these on Bose, you can get these on Sony. It's like the spatial audio is just a type of audio listening experience. It's basically having surround sound in your earbuds just right there. And it is really nice, but I was watching, so I'm trying to go through all the different Marvel movies because I was 10 years or more behind in watching these Marvel movies, so I'm trying to catch up. I was watching Ant-Man and the Wasp today, which, good movie, by the way. I was watching that, and I was testing out some of these features with this because I know Disney Plus is one of those apps that is supported with spatial audio, has all the little things in there. So I tested out the different ways of doing it. I turned off they call it in the settings, follow iPhone. So if you, by default, this is on. So if you turn on spatial audio and you are listening through your iPhone, it will basically have the sound like it's coming from your iPhone. So if you move either your head to the side a little bit or something, or move your phone in different directions, the sound will change to follow where your phone is at, which is kind of cool. But I turned that off because, to me, I'd rather have the more personal in my head experience rather than the experience of it coming from an external device. Especially, like, it's one thing if I have actual like external speakers going on, that's a whole other thing entirely. But if it's earbuds and it already sounds like it's in my head, I want it to remain like it sounds in my head. And I mean, you still get that in your head feeling, but if you move it all, it's going to tweak it ever so subtly to follow your phone. So I turn that off because it's just not what I want. But regular spatial audio, like I said, it's kind of trippy. It's literally like having surround sound in your head. It's pretty neat though. I liked it. Like it, all I really had to do is like put my head up or to the side, and you can tell like the sound changes just a little bit. Like it's like having surround sound, but inside of you. It's neat. So that's cool. Those are my initial impressions with the AirPods Pro 2nd generation. I haven't been able to really test out the battery yet because I hadn't had them that long. So I'll have to come back and give an update on that later on. I did test out the Find My features on these new ones. It does work the way it's advertised. The speaker on the case is quite loud. I'll say that. Obviously when you test that out, if you're just testing it, you're probably relatively close to your case. If not, it's in your hand or something. It's loud. But that's a good thing because if it's lost, like under a blanket or clothes or something, you want to have it to be heard.
Yep.
So that is nice that it is fairly loud. And also the new Find My app that gets you in the right direction and points you where you're going. Like it's interesting. I knew where they were, but I still tested this out because I haven't used it yet in this way. And like it says you're getting closer and closer. And I had to basically be touching the case to my phone in order for it to say, here it is. Like, okay. I mean, you're right. It is right there. So that was an interesting experience. But so far, I'm liking these AirPods Pro 2 I hate them. These names are so bad.
What the heck is the plural of AirPods Pro? Man,
technically,
AirPods
I think that's
Pros 2s.
I don't know. Yeah.
Apple.
It's
hate your marketing department.
It's really bad. But the product is good. I will say that. Horrible name, great product. So
Fair.
If you are in the market and you have an iPhone, heck, even if you don't have an iPhone, most of these features will still work perfectly fine on an Android device. Like spatial audio will work. Transparency mode will work. I mean, all this stuff is these are still really good earbuds for non-iPhone users. It's just some of the bonus features, like if you want it to follow your phone with the sound, that's going to be an iPhone thing. If you want the Find My features, that's an iPhone thing. But overall, good earbuds. At $250, it's still not cheap, but I mean, comparable Bose earbuds, or right, the new ones that they just came out with, the Quiet Comfort earbuds 2 or whatever, are $300. And from what I understand, they're very comparable in sound quality and noise canceling and all that stuff. But you're spending $50 more for the Bose, which usually you pay the Apple tax, where, now you're paying the Bose tax because, Bose has had the same tax on their products as Apple has had forever because it's Bose.
Yep.
Because it's Apple, because it's Bose, you're going to be paying more. But Bose is still even $50 more for, from what I understand, fairly similar products. I do believe the EQing and stuff like that is going to be a little better on Bose just because they've been doing this a little longer than Apple has. And also, I haven't been able to find a way to manually EQ these AirPods. I don't know if there is a way. I haven't looked it up yet, but I've never heard of that.
I don't really think there is with AirPods.
Which,
Apple locks it down pretty hard.
It's kind of a bummer, but it is EQ'd pretty decent. It sounds good. I haven't listened to a variety of music on these yet, so I can't fully say on that regard. But everything I like, obviously podcast is not that big of a deal, but movies, it did sound good with video and whatnot, so that's good enough for me. But yeah, I'm pleased with this purchase so far. I'm going to give it a couple weeks and we'll find out for sure. But I did, because I bought some Jabra Elites a while back and eventually returned them for reasons. But these ones have the features that those didn't, that I was looking for. So I might be keeping these. That is the plan at the moment, is to keep them. But yeah, I'm happy with them so far. So that's all the stuff that I wanted to talk about this week.
Awesome. Very awesome. Kind of made me think of my Pixel buds. I don't know if they have that spatial audio or not. I haven't looked or tried.
The Pixel Buds Pro that just came out does have the spatial audio feature. Or if it doesn't at the moment, they're planning on updating it to have that.
Gotcha.
But none of the regular one, none of the other ones have it at the moment. Just the Pro versions do.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. I just got that first version. So awesome. All right, let's move on over to Caleb. Caleb, what you got for us, buddy?
I have one item of tech news. It is Apple news, and it actually is related to the AirPods Pro. So I obviously don't have these, so this is not necessarily an informed, by personal experience take. But I am an Apple customer, and I do have a lot of Apple devices, and I use them every day. So I feel like this does, in a roundabout way, directly affect me. So, the new AirPods Pro, weird feature that Apple did not talk about, understandably, they now show the engravings on the case of the device. If you ordered it with an engraving, it now will show that on the picture that pops up when you're pairing it with your phone.
I did see that from a few different people.
Yep. So that's weird. Little, that's a strange detail to implement.
Yeah.
And then you think about it a little bit more, and this means that Apple has a record associated with your Apple ID that contains information relating to the engravings on your devices. So, how about that privacy, Apple?
Right.
How about that not tracking a whole bunch of information about your customers because you're the privacy-focused company? Apple? So, that's a weird thing that happened this past week.
Yeah. It's interesting on the privacy side of things because it's like from people I know, or I guess I don't know, but people I've read their articles and whatnot that actually know a lot about what companies actually do when it comes to privacy and whatnot. A lot of them do have a lot of the same information. It's just a matter of what these companies do with that information. Like Facebook is one of the worst. Google is much better than Facebook, but they're still doing, like, they're not selling your personal information. They're using it to give ads to you to make money off that.
Yes.
Apple still has all that information. They're just keeping it to make their products in some ways better for you, some ways not better for you. Just, I mean, all of these companies have this information. It's just what they're doing with it. But it's interesting. Yeah, I did notice that. I've seen a few different people post about this, and even some people I know that are like, look at this engraving I got. And then they took a screenshot like, oh, it's on here too. That's interesting. I'm like, that is interesting.
That is very interesting. Yeah. No, it's very much the kind of thing. Cause like Facebook or Amazon, when they're gathering your data, they are using it to feed you ads and to sell you. Like they use it to synthesize an image of you as a person and sell that to people for whatever the crap they want to use it for. Google collects way more information about you than either Facebook or Amazon even have access to, because Google, they're the OG at this.
Yes.
This is how they've been making their money since the 90s. But Google's, they're not synthesizing an image of you. They're putting you into a bucket or a bunch of different buckets based off of the information that they gather about you, and they sell people that bucket, you know? So they're not selling you as an individual. They're selling you as a part of a group, as basically like, hey, you want to advertise to this group with like all of these things that specifically associate with that group, we can do that. But Google maintains control of the information, but they sell kind of this advertising to a group as a bucket, you know? Apple doesn't actually pass your information on to very many people at all, but they collect a ton of stuff, and they have the unique position of being able to collect information that Facebook, Amazon, and Google would kill to have. Especially Facebook and Amazon, because they don't, I suspect, have any compunctions about killing. They just kind of seem like the companies that wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But,
probably.
you know, but basically, like, because they sell all of the devices that their customers are using, that they're gathering information from, and they make all of those devices, they have extremely detailed information, like what engravings did you choose to put on your device when you ordered it. And here's my favorite part about that. I guarantee there's some kind of a device level ID that is associated with that. So yeah, it's probably tied to the Apple ID of the person who originally bought the things. But if that person decides to resell at some point in the future, guaranteed they're going to be able, you know, they'll go into Find My iPhone or Find My app, and they'll remove the AirPods, whatever. They'll disassociate them from their devices and their account. They will sell them to somebody. That person will flip them open and their phone will see the ID of those AirPods. They will call home to Apple. Apple will go, I know what these are. They happen to have this engraving on the case, and they'll feed you that image because they know. And now Apple knows that you bought these AirPods from so-and-so. Freaking,
yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
They have a lot of information about people. And for the most part, that information doesn't get passed on to anyone. Apple uses it to they don't need to synthesize a picture of you. They know everything about you very specifically, but all they're really doing with it is selling you ads in the App Store and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now,
so
and,
it's
and to be fair, I mean, even if you didn't get an engraving or etching on your AirPods or your iPhone or whatever product, they still know this serial number on this product is associated to you, and now they know that you sold this product or gave this product to this other person, but they're just not showcasing it in a way that actually shows that, like they do with the engraving. That's, I mean, the main reason I don't get engraving on anything is because that drops the resale value immediately. Like, Apple products are notoriously good when it comes to resale value, but if it's got an engraving on it or an etching of some sort, that drops it at least 10% right there because it's personalized. Now, if you get a relatively generic engraving on it, then it's not as bad. But if you're getting your name or your Memoji that you can also now get on them because that's an option at the moment or something like that, I hope you plan on keeping these forever because they're yours.
Yeah.
And it shows. Or if you just happen to sell it to maybe your twin, if you have the Memoji, or someone that has the same name as you, or, or someone that likes whatever emoji you may have put on, I don't know, then maybe it's okay. But I mean, that I would say don't get this unless you plan on never selling these, or maybe at most giving them to your own kid or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. That's my opinion.
But yeah, it's basically, I just felt like I wanted to bring this up because it's an opportunity to talk about the fact that, Apple maybe doesn't sell your information, but they gather just as much information as anybody else. Your information makes them money in the same way that it can make money for companies like Facebook and Amazon and Google. The difference is that Apple uses it to sell you expensive hardware as opposed to using it to sell you. So there is a slight improvement in the way that they're handling your information, but it's like Landon said, Apple has had this information related to the devices that you own and that you use and how they move around inside of Apple's ecosystem ever since they introduced iCloud accounts. Like, ever since an Apple ID was a thing and you had to sign into your operating system to unlock 90% of the features, Apple has known all of this stuff. So it's been decades. And, they haven't done anything super insane with it or any kind of crazy stuff, but they also haven't really hung a lantern on it quite as brightly as they did when they started putting the engraving image on AirPods onto the phone. It's very much just a case of like, right, yes, Apple does this. And we all knew that Apple did this, but now we know that Apple does this. So there you go. Good old giant corporations. They love you. They really do. Because you make them money. And that's the only reason.
Yep.
Anyways, that's my Apple news. That's my tech news. I have gaming stuff.
All right.
I'm going to just go into gaming.
Well, we might as well because Microsoft really hasn't done too much now since they're still fighting with governments. So, So go ahead.
It works out because we can segue straight from talking about one giant corporation to another giant corporation who only likes you because you make them money. Nvidia.
Oh, here we go.
Rant incoming.
Settle in, listener.
I need to get like a rant soundbite or something.
I don't know, like an air horn or something. Not like
we've got the air horn, but that's for when I have
what's the word I'm
news.
trying to think of? Yeah, not an air horn. Like the alarm klaxon,
tornado
sound.
Alarm.
Yeah, something like that. Anyways, the 40 series. Nvidia announced the first few cards from their 40 series of graphics cards. This is the quote-unquote Ada Lovelace architecture chips. Now, Well, okay, I'm going to go, we're just going to, here's the lineup, listener. I'll just, in a few words, just so that we can talk about this. The 4090 will have 24 gigs of RAM. The 4080 will have 16 gigs of RAM, and the 4070 will have 12 gigs of RAM, except, oh wait, that's not actually a 4070. For some reason, they have decided that the 4080 is going to exist in two different configurations, one of which will have 16 gigs of RAM, the other of which will have 12 gigs of RAM. But, even better, the differences between those two are not limited to simply the amount of memory that they have, right? Because the 4090 has 24 gigs of GDDRX RAM, right? Which is like the fastest non-HBM based like sharing die space kind of memory that you can have for a processor. Right. The 4080 has 16 gigs of that GDDRX super fast memory with a really nice wide memory bus bandwidth. And the 4080 12 gig has GDDR6, which is significantly smaller bandwidth and quite a bit slower in terms of like mega transfers per second. And also, they have a completely different number of like CUDA cores and tensor cores and ray tracing cores and stuff like that. Like the 12 gig version of the 4080 is just, it's not the same graphics card. Like, it might be using the same base silicon, but it's got so many features that have been disabled or changed and are different. And the actual buildup of the board is different, to use different RAM with a different bandwidth and bus size and all that stuff. It's a 4070 in sheep's clothing, or so, like, I don't.
Yeah.
I am so many things about this announcement piss me off. So that's the first one, that they announced a 4080 that has two configurations that are both wildly different from each other, one of which should have just been the 4070. Okay? So that's the first thing that NVIDIA did to show that, listener, they hate you. They hate you. Jensen hates you. He puts on that leather jacket every day so that just in case one of the plebs like you gets close enough that they breathe toward him, it won't stain the actual fabric of the shirt that he's wearing. Just so we're absolutely clear, that's how he feels about you. Also, evidence to that effect, the 4090 will retail for $1,600. Now, if you remember the 3090, when that thing first retailed for, what was it, 14? I think it was $1,400, and we were all like, whoa, that's a lot of money. Jensen, are you sure? Are you genuine about that? Yeah, now it's $200 more, because reasons. Nobody has any good explanation for why this card is so expensive, because, quite frankly, graphics card prices right now are tanking because, we talked about this, the Ethereum switch happened and the used market is being flooded with GPUs because miners literally cannot profit off of them anymore. You know, Ethereum doesn't use proof of work mining anymore. Bitcoin, you haven't been able to be profitable with a GPU on Bitcoin in literally years. Like, you have to have a dedicated ASIC for those. And There's a couple of other coins that are like that. And none of the other coins are profitable to mine. Like, they just aren't. It costs more to power the card to mine the coin than the value of the coin. So, yeah, $1,600. The 16 gig version of the 4080, 12. This is 1,200 US buckaroos for that card. And the glorified, over advertised 4070 is $900. Like, what are you smoking, NVIDIA?
I think they're just going off of the inflation prices, like, and this is like they have to be.
Like, well, guys, I think it's that and the fact that they probably had these prices like set when graphics cards were still really expensive. But even then, it's like
freaking change them. Like, this is one of the few
Well, they're not
things,
gonna do
NVIDIA, you
that.
have direct control over. You can't just change the prices. Like, it's irks me. There are other things, right? So let's talk about DLSS, right? Deep Learning Super Sampling, which is the AI-powered super sampling technology that NVIDIA introduced with their first generation of ray tracing processing cores in the 20 series of graphics cards that allows it's the tensor cores, I think. It allows the tensor cores, the machine learning cores on the GPU to basically bring down the resolution, the rendered resolution of the frame without losing too much visual quality in order to allow the ray tracing cores to actually do ray tracing on a much lower resolution image, but still give you something, listener, that actually looks good and is high resolution, but a decent frame rate, kind of the best of all worlds, right? DLSS 1.0 was kind of lackluster, but DLSS 2.0 has been pretty well received. People have liked it. So NVIDIA also announced DLSS 3.0, which is the tenet upon which all of their claims about the performance of these cards is based, right? So if you look at their slides, they say the 4090, for instance, is 2 to 4 times more performant than the 3090, right? This was a gaming event, right? They were talking about gaming mostly for these cards. And so, they're GeForce cards. They're for gaming, essentially. And so, yeah, the 4090 was being compared to the 3090 in terms of frame rates and stuff like that. Typically with ray tracing turned on, because that's kind of, they're pushing that, right? It's their child, their poster child, and they're trying to push ray tracing. All of this makes sense. And to have a generational uplift of 100%, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. Some people might think, okay, yeah, that maybe kind of does justify the $1,600 a little bit. They were comparing DLSS 3.0 to DLSS 4.0 on the 30 series card. Which, okay, so yeah, this generation as it stands with a 3090 and DLSS 3.0 gives you such and such frame rate in Cyberpunk with everything cranked all the way. And if you get a 4090 and you use DLSS 3.0, then you'll be able to get something that's about double the frame rate. Okay, that's fair. Until you get to the fine print where they mentioned that the DLSS 3.0 is only going to be supported by the 40 series cards for reasons that are not clear to anybody. I think it's because they realized that nobody would be willing to pay their absurdly stupid prices for these cards if they weren't actually more performant by like double than the 30 series cards. Except that they couldn't actually make them that much faster than the 30 series cards. And so they're like, well, we do have this really good uplift in DLSS performance. So maybe if we just restrict that to the 40 series cards, then people will be... I just feel insulted by every aspect of this announcement. Like, first of all, NVIDIA's like, look, you're stupid enough to pay whatever we charge. So here's $1,600 for our top of the line card. And heck, you want a 4070? Yeah, it's almost $1,000. It's basically $1,000. You want to buy an add-in board partner version of this? Oh, right. You have to buy an add-in board partner version of this because there is no Founders Edition of the 12 gig version of the 4080 because it's a 4070. It's not a 4080. Yeah, no, that's $1,000. MSRP is supposedly $900, but almost no cards are actually going to be available for that. So yeah, you're paying $1,000 for this thing. So that's the first thing. Yeah, you're stupid enough to pay that. Okay, the second thing, you're stupid enough not to realize that this is a 4070. We'll call it a 4080. You'll fall for it, right?
Yeah.
You're not paying close enough attention to actually realize that, the architecture is different. The actual performance of the thing is different. The feature set is different. It uses different RAM and it's got a different board design and layout. It uses a different amount of power and all of that stuff. It's a 4080. Yeah, sure. Oh, and also, you're stupid enough not to realize that the reason that it seems like these are so much faster than last generation is because we've artificially locked a software feature that we could have totally made available for the 30 series cards to the 40 series cards just for kicks and giggles. So frustrating. And also, on top of all of this, this isn't maybe a thing where Nvidia is saying you're stupid, but it does feel like anybody who buys these cards might be a little dumb if they don't pay attention to this. The 4090 by itself can draw 450 watts of power. That's a lot. Like, listener, I'm not sure if you were paying attention about 5 years ago or so, a 450 watt power supply was absolutely adequate for a mid-range gaming PC. Like,
Yep.
if you had a top of the line gaming PC, you wanted more like 650 to 700 watts just for that little bit of extra headroom. But yeah, honestly, if you weren't overclocking and you didn't have like a top of the line processor, you could buy a gaming PC that had kind of like a high-end i5 processor from Intel in it and put a GTX 1080 in it or 1080 Ti, and you were fine with a 450 watt power supply. Now, that single power supply, you would trip the overcurrent protection with a 4090. Just nothing else in the system, just the 4090. What the heck? Nvidia, what is this announcement? What is this series of GPUs? And yeah, it's it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. So
It's a bummer is what it is.
It's a huge bummer. What are they? I don't have words, listener, in case the just random noises and frustrated sounds you're hearing don't make that incredibly clear. I do not have the words to express how ridiculous I think this is that Nvidia has made the vast majority of these decisions. I feel like all of these decisions were poor decisions. And honestly, the cards may be very impressive, but I am so soured by their entire announcement and their entire strategy for marketing these cards at this point that there is no way in heck, there is not a snowball's chance that I am going to buy an Nvidia card when I upgrade my GPU this year, which I'm going to be doing. I have a freaking, it's old, right? I've got an RX 580. It was not a great card when it was brand new. It was fine for the money, and it's still okay, but I want to be able to play some newer games as time goes on and stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm upgrading my GPU. My plan was never to buy a 40 series card because there's so many used cards on the market right now. I just feel like there's better value for money to be had elsewhere. But I was definitely considering the 30 and 20 series cards. Like, that was on my radar. Absolutely. Not anymore. They just aren't. I will be buying an AMD GPU. So yeah, like 5700, 6700, 6600, kind of, that's where I'm looking. And, AMD, the Radeon team announced this past week that they are going to be having an event to announce their next generation of GPUs. It is coming, I can't remember exactly, it was sometime in early October. So, I'll wait until then and see what they announce, and hopefully that'll drive the prices of their older cards down a little bit, and I'll spend $200 to $300 and hopefully be able to get myself like a 6700 ideally. But that's what I'm looking at now, because I'm just pissed off at Nvidia. So
I don't blame you at all. It sucks because I've both always had Intel and Nvidia cards, and so here, and not to bring Intel in this, but it's the same. Like, I'm just like, gosh dang it, what is going on with this? Like,
yeah,
I think about, my PC that you helped me build and everything. I bought the motherboard just so I could upgrade these parts, but I've just been so disenfranchised. Like, so I'm like, I'll just keep I did the i3 8th gen, and then I was thinking about my graphics card. I just got a 1063 gig, nothing huge. It's nothing. It plays my Age of Empires if I want to. But, thinking about, maybe I might start trying the VR thing, maybe trying this, and I'm just like, gosh dang, I might have to buy a whole new just computer because I might be switching to AMD.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I
because
mean, there's
the price and the performance, like they're just I don't know.
yeah. It's Intel's 12th gen CPUs have been pretty good, and
Yeah.
it remains to be seen how well their 13th gen CPUs are going to compete with AMD's 7000 series CPUs, because benchmarks for those 7000 series CPUs have been leaking over the past week, and actual reviews are going to be happening this next week, listener. So next week on the podcast, we'll be talking about those and how performant they are. But it's looking like just somebody did some basic overclocking, on the top of the line 7950X, and got that thing up to 6.9 gigahertz on water, I'm pretty sure. So not exotic cooling or anything like that, just water cooling. And they got 6.9 gigahertz out of that thing. And it was absolutely smoking every other processor on the market in terms of speed in every use case. I'm just like, oh, okay, good job, AMD. So if Intel's 13th gen is competitive with that, then by all means, buy 13th gen or AMD's 7000 series. The CPU market right now is on fire, and I love it. It's fantastic. The GPU market, apparently there's not enough competition there because Nvidia feels like they can do crap like this. So
it's on fire. It's just burning money,
right.
That kind of fire.
The wrong kind of fire. This is the wrong kind of fire.
Just crazy. Just
So yeah, that's life though. Giant corporations don't care about you, listener. They care about your money. That's it.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna move on. That's enough ranting out of me. There's a couple of, so it's fall. It's leading up to the holidays. Not sure if you're aware, listener, but if you have some long lead Christmas items that you need to be purchasing, oh wow, get on that. These are not long lead Christmas items, but it is definitely release season for video games at the moment. And there are a couple of games that are coming out in October that I wanted to bring up because they're pretty high profile launches. And in particular, some of these games, people have been waiting for them for a very long time. So the first one, No More Heroes 3. That's going to be launching on October 11th on the PlayStation and Switch and PC, I think. Don't think Xbox is getting it. I may be wrong about the PC getting it as well. I'm not sure. Can't remember. But No More Heroes is a franchise that is weird. It's basically a boss rush kind of fighting type situation, but it's very tongue-in-cheek and very very entertaining. And people have been waiting for a follow-up to the last No More Heroes game for a long time. I feel like at least 10 years. I'm trying to remember when the second one came out, but it was like a decade ago at least. So finally coming out October 11th. Gotham Knights is the next one. That one's landing on October 21st. And this is a Batman game. So obviously not Batman though. It's all of the other Bat family members, I suppose. So you've got like your Nightwings and your Red Hoods and your Batgirl and your Robins and your, I guess, just one of the Robins because the other ones are the Red Hood and Nightwing. And anyways, it's the Bat family. Right. Yeah. I don't, it gets a little convoluted when you start bringing Robin into the picture. So yeah, the Bat Family game, it is developed by some of the same folks that are behind the Arkham games. So if you are a big fan of Arkham Knights, Arkham Knight was the last one, for instance, or I'm more likely you're a fan of one of the earlier Arkham games and you kind of tolerated Arkham Knights. That was my impression from how people felt about it anyways.
Yeah.
Gotham Knights is supposedly going to be kind of that same sort of thing. I would at the very least expect them to have gotten the combat right, which is kind of a lot of the appeal of these games. So, if you like Batman and in particular you liked Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, then take a look.
Yep.
The third one, Bayonetta 3, which, man, this has had a really bizarre and twisted development cycle get into life. So we've mentioned before on the podcast about Bayonetta, right? We've talked about how Bayonetta is a witch that fights demons and angels using weapons and attacks formed from her own hair, which is also her clothing. So this is obviously a character that was designed entirely by a male development team. And in particular, the first two games are very M rated. They're very mature. They're quite vulgar and like in their humor and in the like in terms of gore and violence and stuff like that. And yet for some reason a few years back Nintendo bought the franchise and put Bayonetta into Smash Bros. And nobody quite understands why they did that, but they did make Bayonetta 3. So here it is, folks. October 28th. For you people that have been waiting, it'll be available on the Switch.
Yeah. I never did get into that, but I know there's a huge cult following for the Bayonettas.
Oh yeah. So. Yeah, very hack and slashy combat focused gameplay, very Devil May Cry Platinum Games style. Just insane combat, which honestly it looks like a ton of fun. And the game, yeah, like Bayonetta 1 and 2, massive cult following. It honestly enough of a following, it kind of feels weird to call it a cult following because there's so many people that really, really wanted a third Bayonetta game. So yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
And then finally, actually coming first on October 4th, Overwatch 2, which is going to be a free-to-play game. So listener, if you want to play Overwatch, then you can get this. They have announced several new characters for it over the past couple of months. The newest character, whose name I can't remember, even though she was just announced this week. Well, she's a Shimada clan type. She is related to Genji and Hanzo. She's a healer, does actually like kind of a pretty good close range damage healer as well. So like she can do heals, but she can also do some damage, a little bit like a Zenyatta sort of situation. And I don't know, like looks interesting. I'm definitely going to hop on and try her out and play. But it's worth noting she will not be available to everybody playing the game. So this is the first indication of what I was concerned about regarding Overwatch going free to play. All of the heroes, aside from her, are going to be available to anybody who just downloads the game for free and does not pay anything for it. If you want her, you have to buy the Battle Pass, buy one of their like launch bundles that includes the Battle Pass, or have been a person who bought Overwatch 1. If you bought Overwatch 1, she will be gifted to you, but I think that's probably the last time that's going to happen. So basically, the next hero that launches, you're going to have to buy them. And I don't feel great about that. Does not feel great. Doesn't, like, if you're new to the game, it probably isn't going to affect you that much because there's like, 27 other heroes or whatever we're up to now that are like, you've never played before and you've never messed around with. So there's going to be plenty for you to do. But for those of us that have played the game quite a bit, that does feel a little bit like a kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm still going to play it because I loved Overwatch 1. I think that Overwatch 2 looks really interesting. And at least for now, I still have access to all of the heroes. So I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. All your hero skins, things like that. Also to note, to add to that, you need to spend your currency that you do have. They opened up everything for seasonal skins and everything. If you do not do that by, I believe it was the 2nd of October, you will lose your currency that you have in Overwatch 1.
Yep.
So.
Which actually reminds me, I'm pretty sure I do have like 3,000 coins. I need to go buy some legendary skins.
Yep. So they did open that up. So I would just go spend it on whatever because you're just going to lose it. So.
Yep. All right. So those are the launches coming up in October. Last piece of news from me. This just kind of cracks me up. A Wii U superfan took to the internet this past week claiming to have a collection of every physical Wii U game released in North America, even the super rare ones. There's 164 of them total. For context, listener, that is a tiny, tiny number in comparison to every other console in history in terms of selling physical units. And it's not just because, like, oh yeah, the Wii U, that was like when the Nintendo eShop first became a thing and you could buy games and stuff like that. So, I mean, technically, in the latter half of the Wii's lifetime, you could also do that. But yeah, you could also do that on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Definitely had a lot of digital games available for them. And yet, the number of physical games sold in North America for the PlayStation, well, let's call it the PlayStation 3. We'll give the Wii U the best chance that it can possibly have. It was like 600 plus or something like that, individual games. So 164 is a tiny number, and I can understand why this person decided to collect those instead of all of the physical copies of the PS4 games or PS3 games or whatever. So, yeah, Wii U, turns out, still not a very popular console, still fun to laugh at.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. I knew one person that had a Wii U, and actually, they kind of enjoyed it, but even then, it's like, it was more of a, I'll try it. I like the Wii. I'll try it out, and
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So yes, that's all of my news.
Awesome. Well, I just have a couple things I wanted to talk about. One, there was actually Microsoft. They actually quietly changed how DRM works on the Xbox consoles. It's nothing huge, but I think it's in a good direction. So what they did is they made some changes to how the DRM works on an Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S consoles. So basically, it is possible to play most disc-based Xbox One games without an online check-in.
Oh, that's good.
So that's good. I mean, it's very basic, but yeah, that's a good direction. I mean, there's still a lot of people that collect their physical media. I mean, that guy had 164 Wii, so there's still a market for this. And I would say, like, if I bought a disc, game disc, and for some reason I couldn't get on the internet, but I still put the disc in, and it said I couldn't play it, I would be a little miffed.
Oh yeah,
I would be very upset. So,
oh yeah.
All right.
Nate, here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be more mad about that or buying a box and just getting a code to buy the game?
You know what's so sad about that is that's happening right now. Like,
I know.
Didn't that happen to, what was it, God of War?
Yeah, there's been a couple of special editions from...
Yeah.
Which would make you more mad, putting a disc in and not being able to play it because you're not connected to the internet, or buying a box and only getting a code? A little piece of paper with a code on it, say, go download the game. It's like, what the...
I think it's the same, and you're inducing hatred for both.
Yeah, it's fair. It's very similar vein.
It's terrible. Don't do that to me. That's so horrible. Oh. Anyway, okay. We'll go ahead and move on from there. I did want to talk about this. This is actually something that's been pretty big. Logitech, they actually announced a portable cloud gaming device. They're calling it the Logitech G Cloud Gaming. The handheld launches in October. Basically, it's meant for streaming. A lot of streaming of games, whether that's the Xbox cloud gaming, whether that's your... if I remember, doesn't GeForce Now, don't they have an app for Android and stuff?
Yep.
So
you can...
So basically, this is a very basic tablet that they put controllers to. That is an Android tablet, I should say, and you can basically do a lot of your cloud gaming. And right now, you'll probably see it mostly for Xbox. I believe they hold the marketing on this. They paid a lot of money to be like, hey, really push the xCloud on this. Which is really funny because when you hear this, I remember when Xbox said that it's no longer called xCloud, it's now just cloud gaming. They even called it xCloud on this.
Oh my gosh.
It's really funny. So
look, Xbox, your whole just call it xCloud. It makes
works
so much more sense than
that
just
was one of the best
gaming.
naming things to come out of tech in the last 10 years.
It seriously was. It made a ton of sense. It's the Xbox Cloud Gaming. It's xCloud. It works. Gosh dang it. Why can't we have nice things?
Yeah. So they did
Dynamic Island over here. Anyways.
Yeah. The details aren't there's not too much of them, but basically it's a 7-inch full HD display, 16:9. They got the IPS multi-touch display, integrated Xbox style controls, the Wi-Fi. They say it's claiming to have 12 plus hours of battery life. So, but like I said, it's compatible with it's got Android on it, so you get all Android apps that are on there. But mainly this is pushed for that. Now, sounds all great and cool and all, but I think the only issue that we're having, and I think we mentioned this earlier in the or before we started recording, was the price. So let's go ahead and say the original price. The original price is going to be $349.99. But if you pre-order, it can be on sale to you for $299.99.
Huh.
Oh, my goodness. That hurts.
It's just interesting to me because, let's see. There's another handheld gaming device. Right, the Steam Deck. Yeah, that one. Steam Deck. Mm-hmm.
Wait, there's another one that's sold a lot. It's been out for a while.
There's a few, but I'm just here's my thing. The Steam Deck, $400, gets you the whole thing. And in addition to being a way to play games, it is also basically a full-fledged computer. But it gives you your entire library. You can download them, and if there are games that can be played offline, you can play them offline. Don't have to be connected to the internet all the time in order to play the games like you would if you were streaming your games all of the time. Also, worth noting, you can emulate games on something like a Steam Deck, and you know that's something that you're not going to be able to do on the Switch either. But also, something you can't do on the Switch is you can still stream cloud games. Like, the Steam Deck will do both. If you wanted to do this, you would have to buy a Switch to be able to play games offline, because you can't do that on the LG thing. And then you'd have to buy the LG thing in order to stream your games from the cloud, because you can't do that on the Switch. So I'm just sitting over here like, I don't know, I feel like Steam Deck looks like pretty good price for all that functionality.
I know. Like, I think this device is cool. Don't get me wrong. It seems like it'd be very nice to just cloud game, do your what do they call it? Chore core games. Just chores in your game stuff. But that price, that's wow.
It's not great.
Honestly,
I feel like
if this is the type of product that you might be interested in, buy the ROG Phone 6.
Yes.
And then just get the little attachment controllers that go with it, because that's going to be a better version of this. Yes, it's more money, but it's also a phone. A good phone. A really good phone.
It's true.
And
just have one device that does it all.
It'll do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, listener, if you're just streaming the games and you've got a reasonably modern smartphone already, just buy a controller for it, man. Like,
yes. They have a lot of phones have even like the little the gaming case type thing, like the ROG phone, that makes it look the same, you know?
Yep. So you could totally go that route, or you could just get a clip for your Xbox controller that just clips onto your phone and just toss that in your backpack too. Like, it takes up about the same amount of space as having a completely separate device for streaming cloud. Yeah, I'm just not sure this thing makes a ton of sense at that price. If it was like $150 to $200, I'd be like, yeah, I can see this, but for $150 more than that, I'm not sure.
That's tough. That's a tough one. But yeah, so I wanted to mention it. It is out there. I mean, it's getting a lot of clout, or a lot of news, I guess, on it. But I don't know. Just doesn't. Like I said, like Caleb said, if it was like $100, $150, maybe. But I'd rather buy something else for that, like a Steam Deck.
Yeah,
But,
right. Exactly.
Yeah. So. But that's really all the news that I have for gaming on there. Unless Landon has one more thing.
Nope.
Then we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. All right, dear listener, we appreciate you listening. You can get a hold of us at our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. You can check out any of the videos that Caleb has put out, which was basically a rant on some Apple stuff, which is, I mean, it's pretty good. So you can take a look at that on our YouTube channel, Calling All Platforms. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.